Welcome back to Travoltine Presents Easy Riders. Hosted by Jeff Sweeney and Stuart Elmore. Covering Sex and Death 101 with special guest Justin Campbell. Oh, that's so funny.
What was that?
Did you guys get a sponsorship from the Hue? I've been really trying, baby.
Hey, folks. Welcome to Sex and Death 101.
This is the first class of the session. Hope you're ready for.
You are gifted the opportunity to be lectured by three sexual tyrannosaurs.
Yeah.
Sexual tyrannosaurus.
No, two sexual tyrannosaurs and a death connoisseur.
A death connoisseur.
Master
Jeff
of-
Sweetie over here.
Yeah.
Oh, you're the death connoisseur? Oh,
We're
cool.
the sexual tyrannosaurs, and
Okay.
he's the death connoisseur.
Yes. What if we'd actually structured this entire episode like a lesson?
We can.
Like we just had like lesson plan breakdown, PowerPoint that you had to like download a PowerPoint and watch it in sync with the episode. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense.
If you guys went to slide 3 before the 5-minute mark, you're too far ahead.
You're
Yeah.
too far ahead. We're at slide 1, just the title slide. Sex and Death 101.
The
Sexual
bell doesn't
tyrannosaur.
dismiss you. I do.
All right. Yeah. At the end of this, you can take the test and get a certificate of sex and death appreciation.
101.
Appreciation. You know, before this class, I didn't appreciate sex or death. But now that I'm leaving it, I understand both of them.
What
now.
folks don't understand is this is the survey class of sex and death, because hence being 101. After this, you take sex 201, death
intro?
201, sex 201, death 201, and then you take sex and death 301, which is the weed out class, which is the class that really gets a lot of people flunked out.
So would you call Sex 201 just the tip? Like, is that what you would call the class?
I would say yes.
What's the pause? I would say,
Yes.
why not? Yeah.
Because death 201 is like, okay, now you've died. Now, where do we go from here? And then sex
Hell.
201 is like, okay, now you're in a relationship.
So you've passed the first class by finding a significant other.
And then sex and death 301 is the transcendent level
Yeah.
of sex and death, which is what
His resurrection.
resurrection and more elements than one, ladies and gentlemen. Which is what I would say Simon Baker finds in this movie. A
I
whole
had to look up his name.
folks who don't know who Simon Baker is, if anyone who watched that show that nobody watched called The Mentalist, he's in that.
I've seen ads for that.
Yeah.
That was about my all experience with The Mentalist, was whatever ads were playing for that.
So, Justin, this is the first time we've had you on the show since the Brendan Fraser
I
days.
know, it's been a long
Why
time.
did you pick this movie?
You know, doing the Brendan Fraser stuff with you guys, I realized everyone takes the good movies, right? So, because you guys were like, yo, we're doing this Brendan Fraser one, and I was so excited for like The Mummy Returns, Mummy 3, you know, not excited, but nice to talk about. And then I did, what was the first one? Line of Descent? That was like the first
Yeah,
one.
I think
the
that was
Godfather one.
No,
or
you
whatever.
did The Air I Breathe.
Yeah, The Air I Breathe. And it was like, nobody watches these, and I never got the experience to watch some of these bad movies. So I thought Sex and Death 101, fuck it, that one sounds fun.
Yeah, you did The Air I Breathe, Hairbrained,
Hairbrained was terrible.
Line of Descent, The Secret of Karma, and The Whale.
Hell yeah.
Hairbrain was the movie that made Jeff want to risk it all.
Can I show you guys?
Made him want to blow out his
Can
brain.
I show you guys a really funny picture I saw this morning?
Yes.
From the 2022 Oscar ceremony for the Hair and Makeup Awards.
Oh my God.
It's a picture of the hair and makeup team for The Whale winning the award, and there's just like this grotesque picture of Brendan Fraser in the whale suit, fully nude, just standing behind them. I just wanted to share that while we were here. Anyway, so okay. Sex and Death 101. Yeah, one of the bad movies, like you said, that you were bold enough to pick.
This was probably the best Winona Ryder movie I've ever seen.
Really just threw us
The pause.
Yeah.
So we're picking up with Winona's career immediately after the 10. Like we talked about, she's in this this post rehab, post 3-year break rebuilding stage of her career.
Can I say something?
Yes,
Jeff?
you can say it.
It's a little bit off subject.
Yes.
But we're recording this after what governor signed that bill that said teachers
Louisiana.
Louisiana signed a bill that said you have to post up the 10 commandments on a
Oh,
classroom.
yes. We challenged the teachers of Louisiana to put up a poster for the
movie.
David Wayne motion picture, The 10.
To 10 as a form of protest. Because if they try to argue with you that you have to put up the Christian Jewish 10
They
commandments.
are the 10 commandments in that movie.
The 10 movie poster is a movie about the 10 commandments. So, there should be, legally speaking, nothing the government can do that says you can't put up the movie poster for the 10.
Yeah,
in
it's
place
Paul Rudd
of the
standing
10
in front of the
commandments.
10 commandments.
So to go a little off of that, I had watched a documentary 2 days ago called Hail Satan ? And it's about the Satanic Temple essentially trying to get statues next to the 10 Commandment statues.
Yeah.
So after I watched that, I get the Louisiana just passed that they can put the 10, and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Quick turnaround.
As soon as the Louisiana passed that thing, I did look up the Satanic Temple right away to be like, they gotta have some shit cooking up in this one.
That was my favorite because they showed some of the meetings with the town councils.
Yeah.
And they're like, so you want to put up this statue of Baphomet, but you're saying if the 10 Commandment statue doesn't go up, you don't want to put yours up? Yeah, that's correct. And they're like, okay.
This sounds so even stupid for us to say it, but I just want to say it. The Satanic Temple, they're Satanists in the way that they're not really Satanists. They don't
it's like a political protest.
It's a
group,
political.
essentially.
They are a recognized religion. They do have what's called the 7 tenets, which is their own little commandments, but they're all basically
Don't be a dick.
it's don't be a dick. It's don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal. They actually have a tenet in there that's about the law of consent and respecting others' bodies and things like that. So they are recognized by the IRS and federal government as a religion, but it's a religion of science and social morality rather than
one of their tenets is actually about scientific proof or something too, if I recall.
And one of their tenets, I think the 7th tenet is listen, these are all the earlier 6 tenets, should not be treated as gospel. They cannot change whatsoever, which I think is a huge thing. And not to be confused with the Church of Satan, which is a different.
Which is really the same people.
No, here's the thing. The Church of Satan was also initially constructed in, I think, the 60s as a social political protesting group. But the guy who came up with the Church of Satan is a heavily renowned social Darwinist.
Yeah.
Who also believes in sterilizing dumb people.
Okay.
He's
So-
something. They talk about him in that movie. He's something else.
Yeah, he has some pretty fucked up beliefs, and so the Satanic Temple, which I think 2 guys were the main creators of that, were we're gonna
Do our own thing.
do our own thing.
Would you say that guy is a believer in Sex and Death 101?
Absolutely.
I feel of the movies he's got on his Manistle, that's one of them.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
But we're picking up with Winona after the 10,
After the
which
10.
Posters are available on Amazon. I've checked.
Yep.
And she's in this stage where she's just rebuilding her career, just taking roles. She doesn't really have much in the way of choice. She's just kind of taking roles that are offered to her and that are available. With the exception of Scanner Darkly, it's kind of been a lot of really low budget movies.
Yeah.
This continues that trend. This does look like it was shot on a potato for about $5.
Yeah.
With craft service of Costco hot dogs.
Those dogs fresh.
They are fresh.
Dogs.
The thing that's interesting about this movie is it's directed by Daniel Waters, who
Yeah.
we've talked about on this show before.
We have.
So Daniel Waters, late 80s, early 90s, semi-wunderkind screenwriter. He comes out hot and he does Heathers.
Yeah.
His first screening, directed by Michael Lemmon, but he wrote the script for it.
Yeah.
And he's a transgressive screenwriter.
Yeah.
He's making these stories that are pushing against the norms of what's accepted in Hollywood.
This guy also, I think he was a screenwriter attached to Batman Returns.
Yes, so he writes Heathers, which is like a shock when it comes out. We talked about it didn't make a lot of money, but it's like genuinely shocking to the culture. That's what he's aspiring to do.
And now it's a cult classic.
Yeah. It's a cult classic and kind of just part of the culture now.
Yeah.
Like it's not really known as being as transgressive anymore.
Yeah.
Which I'll come back to. He off of that screenplay, he gets The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, which is an Andrew Dice Clay comedy, Hudson Hawk, and Demolition Man.
Yeah.
Demolition Man is like his last screenplay. In that time, he also writes Batman Returns off of his Heather script. Tim Burton sees Heather's and is like, that screenplay, let's do that. With Batman Returns. But Batman Returns is such a weird movie. That movie is about three weirdos who dress up in leather to work out their like sexual traumas with each other.
Yeah.
That's the one with Jim Carrey, right?
This is the one with Danny DeVito and Michelle Pfeiffer.
Right.
Watch Batman Returns under the idea of watching it as like a psychosexual drama, and it is the most fascinating movie ever made.
Yeah.
It is. There's like the first time you see Batman, he's just sitting alone in a room staring at a wall, waiting for the signal to appear. And it becomes like the whole movie's about this guy has nothing except for when he just sits there sad and alone until suddenly the bat signal pops up.
And he gets to put on his costume.
He can put on his tight leather and become himself and work out his like sexual traumas with other leather-clad villains.
Hell yeah. That's the American dream right there.
It's like a truly crazy, fascinating... It's like the ultimate Daniel Waters movie.
Yeah.
Is Batman Returns. Even more so than it is the ultimate Tim Burton movie. It's basically like it's Daniel Waters' like kind of peak movie.
Yeah.
However, Batman Returns, massive protests come out about that movie for being too dark for kids.
Yeah.
And he kind of gets shafted by Hollywood after that point. And he's kind of the fall guy for all that.
Yeah.
Demolition Man comes out the year later, but Hollywood's kind of like, let's cool it on the Daniel Waters. He's maybe a little too transgressive for us. Mm-hmm. And so he writes a Catwoman script for a spinoff with Michelle Pfeiffer that never gets made, where she essentially goes to a Vegas run by an evil Superman. And it's her killing all these superheroes who are running this corrupt Vegas.
So like The Boys, but before The Boys.
Yes, kind of. Similar idea to The Boys.
Yeah.
It doesn't get made because Warner Bros. Like, we cannot make this fucking movie.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Are you insane?
People did not like Batman Returns when they brought their kids to see it. And then
a movie about
the kids
an evil
walked
Superman
out,
who
and then,
can fathom.
a movie about an evil Superman who Catwoman is murdering in Las Vegas, and I think it was like hard R.
Nice.
Would have loved to have fucking seen that movie.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Make it now.
Yeah.
Let's get Michelle Pfeiffer back.
Yeah.
But he kind of takes a little break. Eventually, after in the new millennia, 2001, he writes and directs his own movie called Happy Campers. Have no idea what that movie is about. It gets like modest reviews. It's a direct-to-DVD movie. People are like, it's kind of fun.
Yep.
It's interesting. There's something to it. It's kind of like a Wet Hot American Summer riff. Mm-hmm. And then 6 years after that, he directs this movie, Sex and Death 101, where he's trying to go back to his like transgressive roots. The thing that I like thought when I was watching this movie is like, when you're, kind of a transgressive writer, director, filmmaker, artist, culture changes over time.
Yeah.
And what was once transgressive kind of just becomes culture. Batman Returns and Heathers are just kind of movies now.
Yeah.
Like, no one really talks about them in the transgressive sense anymore.
Yeah.
Heathers has a musical that was on Broadway.
Yeah.
Batman Returns, everyone loves Batman Returns.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to shift with the culture unless you just become part of the culture that you were punting against at the beginning.
It's like he was pushing against the norms in the 80s and 90s, but pushing against the norms in the 80s and 90s in 2008 is not really pushing.
It doesn't really
the
work.
norms.
It just kind of comes as dated and sexist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is weird. Like, I was thinking when I'm watching this movie, like, Heathers is shocking for the time. You know what the modern version of Heathers is? It's Euphoria.
Yeah.
A show that I have problems with.
Yeah.
And I think the creator of Euphoria is like a grade A creep.
Yeah.
But Euphoria is occupying that space culturally now that Heathers occupied in the 80s.
Yeah.
Punting against like the norms of what you can show on TV and what TV can be about in a high school setting.
Yeah, and I think just to get a little bit more pointed about the comparison you're making, Heathers and Euphoria, it wouldn't be transgressive to make a Heathers-like movie about teenagers who, this is kind of fucked up to say, but like the humor about like suicide.
Yeah.
Because like, again, coming from like having already seen Heathers back then and knowing like the culture, what it is today, like it's kind of like, yeah, like we've known kids have always joked about suicide and killing themselves, as sad and depressing as that is. Whereas Euphoria is like all your children, parents, are doing coke, heroin, and meth in your bathroom when you're not home and having sex.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh.
like it's definitely a little more intense.
Yeah,
It's hyped up.
Yeah, it's
no
hyped
pun
up.
intended.
And
but
like that wasn't my high school experience. I was also like a choir kid, but
it's like an extreme version,
right,
of just like modern kid culture.
And so when you're trying to make like a transgressive movie about sex and death 101, like
if this movie had been made in the 80s, I'm not saying it would be better, but it would fit more in the time.
Yeah.
Like the concept of this movie, which is ostensibly a satire about a guy who just wants to have sex with every single woman in the world and eventually has to learn that it's all right to like settle down.
Yeah. It's not really like...
And become a normie.
Yeah.
It's like at the end of this movie, it's like he has to become a normie. It's like the satirical point of this.
Yeah.
Doesn't really play in 2007.
No.
It already feels dated nowadays. I still think it feels dated in 2007. Like,
yeah, I would agree too.
I thought that movie was made like the early 2000s. I didn't look up like when it was made when I was watching it, but it felt like an early like late 90s, early 2000s.
It has that
movie.
Aesthetic to it.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Because like this movie is overall just like you're watching it like, oh my god, like come on.
You wrote this in there? Like,
you're just having scenes where there's a bunch of guys standing there like, oh, look at the tits on her.
yeah.
that's my favorite. It's just like all these work bros are just around like, boobs, am I right? And everyone's like, yeah, boobs.
To make a compelling argument.
I will tell you though, this movie's got a lot of great quotes in it.
It does. It does have a few great
What's
quotes.
a better way to mess with me than send a list of all the women I've had sex with? That's a usual practical joke you play on your friends.
Yeah, right.
That would like
Those who know you that well.
the reason that Winona's in this movie, besides that she just needs roles, is because she's worked with Daniel Waters on Heathers before. That's kind of the squaring the circle of what I was saying.
Yeah.
That's why she's in this movie in a significantly smaller role than I expected.
Yeah. When I watched this though, like, yes, she is in a much smaller role than I also expected. Just to quickly talk about Winona here, I thought she was pretty good in this movie.
I think she is good at the end.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, I
That's what
kinda think
because
she's-
she's only really in the end.
Well, the first time she appears in this movie, I think that she's bad. And then I find out that's because she's like playing a role within the movie that she's not really well suited for.
Yeah, this is
Like,
Death Nell.
like her character of Death Nell is pretending to be, or her character of Gillian DeRay
pretending to be Death
Death
Nell.
Nell, and she's not very good at pretending to be Death Nell.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the joke I got at the end of the movie, recontextualize it. Because the first time she pops up, it was like, is this the first bad Winona performance? And then she's good at the end. I'm like, oh no, she's like trying to
be bad.
She's trying to be bad at the beginning.
Yeah, right.
But we'll talk a little bit more of that when we go through the plot. But that's kind of the thing where I was at the beginning, I was like, no.
Well, no.
And then I'm like, all right. She wants me back.
She wants you back. Yeah.
All right. I was a little nervous.
A little
A
nervous.
little nervous. I'm very nervous.
So should we just talk about
Kind of think, we
think we're
start
in
going
plot
through
mode?
it.
Let's jump right in this bitch.
let's do it.
Justin, what's this guy's name?
Oh God, it's Richard Banks, right? Isn't that his name? Roderick Blank.
I believe
don't know where I
Richard
got-
Banks is the guy from Mary Poppins.
Roderick Blank.
Daddy's first satirical character name is because he's a blank. He's boring. He's blank. Get it? He doesn't have a personality. He describes himself as a man above all temptation.
Yeah.
because he's like engaged to his fiancee Fiona.
Yeah.
It's funny enough, your cat's name.
Thank you, Jeff, for pointing that out.
Also, the name of one of the main characters in Shrek. If we just want to connect.
Yeah, that's a bit more significant in my mind.
He's engaged to Fiona, and they're going to have a loving relationship. But before that, he has to make through the bachelor party.
Yeah, the bachelor party.
Yes. He has a how'd you describe his relationship with his secretary? Promise to the listener home, this is not going the way you think it's going to go.
Of all the people he has sex with in the movie, the secretary is not one of them.
Right. Yeah. No. His relationship with his secretary is. I feel like it's very akin to like the 2.5 Men housekeeper.
That's fair.
Just kind of like somebody who who is reliable that you can joke with, and there's no expectation or any hint that there's ever going to be a sexual relationship involved in that. It would have been really funny if her name was one of the women on the list, and I would have thought that would have been very funny. This thing is like, if we just told you the concept of this movie on paper, like the log line of it, you'd think like, okay, I can see like where this could like be really funny and like really interesting. It's very unfortunate that the movie doesn't take really any of those pulls, but even the punches it does take, they don't land as well. We'll talk about like when he sleeps with like the grandmother.
Yeah.
That should have been like rolling on the floor, laughing, wheezing, funny.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's funny.
This movie's not funny. And also, who is this movie like punching at? Like
who's it for?
Like who's this? Who's who's the target of this movie?
Right, because like if he's supposed to be the joke of it,
Yeah.
it doesn't do a very good job of making him a joke of it.
This gives me like,
And if it's the women, like then it's then that kind of gives another different feeling about it. Like
this gives me like, did you guys ever watch Spike TV when you were growing up?
Yeah.
This gives me like Spike TV vibes. Like that's what that movie gives me.
Yeah.
Because
Yes,
it's like
big
it's
Spike
got
TV
like the fan service in there. It's got like the joke in there,
Yeah. Yeah.
Spike TV, the channel that would have all these like dude bro shows.
Mansers.
Also inexplicably air all the Star Wars movies once a week.
Weird. Very weird.
Well, because they'd have shit like Mansers and they're like, oh, look, Deadliest Warrior. And I'm like, I'm in on this.
Deadliest Warrior. That I do remember. Oh my God.
One of the greatest shows growing up.
That was wild.
Fairly decent video game, too.
Really? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
I'll tell you more after.
We should talk more about Deadliest Warrior after when we're off the air. But yeah, this movie starts and classic voiceover. I'm a very happy, engaged. I got no stresses.
A man above all temptation.
You ever see that guy so happy with his life, you want to punch him in the face? Well, that's me.
And he's on the phone with his secretary who's going through some emails. And then he gets an email and it's a list of names. And we quickly find out it's a list of women that he's had sex with his current fiance being like number.
She's like right in the middle, right?
It's like number 40 or 50 or some shit like that. And so wild number. Not going to get into body count conversations with you boys here at my home with my girlfriend in the next room. But yeah, wild number indeed.
Yes.
So it's the fact that like he sees his fiance as like number 50, which means there's going to be more women after his fiance. This is where part of me was like, again, this would be a funny prank that is being played on him that he takes so seriously of like, oh my God, this is like a message sent from above that I have to break up my engagement and go sleep with all these women. And it turns out like, dude, it was a joke. Like that would have been so fucking funny.
Right.
And then it turns out like, no, it actually was like a celestial list or some shit like that. Because Patton Oswalt shows up as an angel, or they don't really say angels.
We gotta talk about the the bachelor party before we go to Patton Oswalt.
I hear you. I'm just saying it's like that when I see this list at the beginning of the movie, that's like my first immediate thought is, oh, this is gonna be like a self-fulfilling prophecy comedic bit. And like, dude, we just sent that as a joke. You broke up your engagement. It's like, you got an STD, man. One girl's carrying your child. Like just all this. That would have been funny.
Everything just falls apart because he thinks this list is...
That would have been transgressive if it was like... if he had to like, because obviously like some of the women on the list, he could just call up, they come over, fuck, they leave, that's it. But like, if that's like 9 out of 10 women are like that, it's the 1 out of 10 in the list that he has to kind of woo and convince and coerce a little bit. And then it like that horrible raunchiness like of his character, I feel like that could be like a transgressive thing. Like, look at these awful things this guy is doing purely because of this self-fulfilling prophecy he thinks he has,
right?
That turns out he's not. So anyway, yeah, he finds the list and then he goes to a bachelor party. The bachelor party.
Where his boys, Zach and Lester.
Yes.
What a name.
One of them played by Neil Flynn from Scrubs, who's the janitor in Scrubs. One of the all-time greats.
Yes.
Best to ever do it. Were we Scrubs fans?
I haven't seen it. I've seen pieces. I haven't seen all of it.
I've seen some episodes. I watched the Brendan Fraser arc.
Do you know the bit with the janitor in that show?
I know that he's like constantly like aggro against...
he hates Zach Braff.
Zach
That's
Braff.
Yeah. My favorite thing about the show is they put him in the first episode and they're like, oh, this guy's funny. We'll just keep him around.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, the bit's going to be that he's a figment of JD's imagination who's like just tormenting him.
Yeah.
Like an evil spirit, essentially. And the end of the season was going to reveal that, and then he wouldn't be in it anymore. And they're like, this guy's too funny. Let's just make him a normal guy. And so for the whole first season, he doesn't interact with anyone else. And then the second season, he starts just being like, hey, what's up? It's really funny.
That's good.
And their beef is all because he like left a penny in the doorway.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And then in the season 9 opening, Zach Braff is no longer at the hospital, and the janitor just disappears, and no one ever sees him again.
I'm surprised Jeff knows this much about a TV show.
I watched all of Scrubs. I've seen every episode of Scrubs.
It's I know like my friend's a big fan of Scrubs too. Like everybody
it's a good
loves
show.
that show.
I've heard nothing but great things.
I can list
about
all the shows that I've seen in full.
Is it on one hand?
Is that an invitation to listen?
I could do it if you want me to.
I think he wants to.
It's
you know what? Floor's yours, man.
I've seen all of Scrubs.
Yep.
I've seen all of Star Trek, the original series.
Yep.
I've seen all of Star Wars, the Clone Wars. I've seen all of Star Wars Rebels. I've seen all of... Are we counting shows that are still airing actively?
Yeah,
okay.
whatever you want, man.
I've seen Star Wars: The Bad Batch. I've seen Star Wars: The Mandalorian.
So I'm hearing a lot of Star Wars.
I've seen the Star Wars Book of Boba Fett. I've seen and
come on, there's got to be
I'm trying
one
to see
more
if there's
Star
any
Wars show.
non-Star Wars shows that I've watched. I've seen all Breaking Bad.
Boom.
And Game of Thrones. That's about all the shows I've seen.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not a big TV guy. I'm watching Band of Brothers right now. That's great. I love Band of Brothers.
It's good.
I haven't seen
I'm gonna
that.
watch The Pacific.
You're gonna become like a World War II bro.
I'm becoming a World War II guy.
I know some
it's
people, if you wanna
my
get into it.
dad's summer.
I'm gonna send you a YouTube channel link. Yeah. It's every World War II bro's dream, wet dream.
Mm-hmm. It's my dad's summer.
Yeah.
We're getting into World War II. We're getting into craft beers.
You got to put the high socks on and play some Creed in your front yard.
Yeah, maybe I'll fuck around and do that. He's at his bachelor party, and he's like, "Who sent this to me? This is a good joke, guys."
And none of them is copping up to it.
Yeah, and then suddenly they bring a stripper in.
Yeah,
a new stripper named Carlotta Valdez.
Yeah.
Which is a song from Harvey Danger's album, and it's also a character from the movie Vertigo.
Yeah.
All of the women in this movie are named after things that Daniel Waters likes because he just like pulled up. If you go to the trivia page on the Wikipedia or the IMDb for this movie, It is literally just listing where all the names came from because people thought they were really clever in figuring this out.
Those poor women showing up to the casting couch.
The list of lovers includes Selena Kyle, Catwoman's name, Kitty Twist, Jane Fonda's name in Walk on the West Side, Barbarella Pygar, the character from Barbarella, Candace Christian from the movie Candy, Annabelle Lee from an Edgar Allan Poe poem, Carlotta Valdez, a character from Vertigo,
It's like
Gillian
you're showing
DeRay.
up, but it's like, I'm here to audition for a woman that Simon Baker sleeps with, number 69.
There's Alexis DeLarge, who's a character from The Clockwork Orange.
Please tell me there's an Alexis DeSmall too.
Zuzu Petals from It's a Wonderful Life.
I liked it. I liked
Thank
it.
I liked it.
Hey.
I'm not going to read any more of them because every single one of them is just like, Daniel has been like, you know what I liked? The Brady Bunch. Let's just do that. But he's like, Carlotta Valdez, number 31 on my list.
Well,
I just keep changing this guy's voice.
Well, so like
He keeps changing his voice.
eventually, like she does like a private dance with Simon Baker, Richard Blank, and they're like faking that they're having sex because obviously he's holding up the facade of like, oh, I'm gonna stay faithful to my fiance. Like we'll give them a show, but like we're not actually gonna sleep with each other. And then something weird happens.
Yeah, weird's a word.
Weird's a
you
word.
Could use.
Weird is a word. But she falls on his dick,
Yeah.
Yes.
and there's like it, and like it. Yeah, what happens? You might think, audience, happens, and that's when the revelation of like, oh my god, you're number 31 or whatever on my list, and then it's like, oh fuck, and then they have sex.
Boom.
Yes.
It just happens. Okay, cool, fine. And then that's when he sort of gets this revelation like, oh my God, the list is true. It's real.
Mm-hmm.
And is it this scene where he like pretty much breaks off his engagement?
I think it's the second.
Who is here? Me. Hold on, let me you guys keep talking. Let me
Wait, do we want to we'll just, yeah.
we don't have to do that.
Because I think before he breaks the engagement, he gets approached by Patton Oswalt, and the boys.
Oh, right. The angels.
Yeah, the three angels. This is like it's an okay life. It's a moderate life.
That is how I described it to Angelica. It's like these fucking angel dudes show up like it's a Wonderful Life Frank Capra movie,
Yeah.
and it's like very weird.
But they kind of suck is the joke.
Yeah.
And it's their names are Alpha, Beta, and Fred. They say they're from the agency.
Yeah, they're doing the fucking like Adjustment Bureau chairman vibe.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, that list accidentally got emailed to you.
Be glad you didn't get the other one with a random date on it.
We got this machine that predicts the future. And you're like, what? And like, we have a machine that, and it's like, it looks like some Star Trek, the original series, like jank ass. They had a printer in the back that they say is a machine.
Right.
You watch the Star Trek and they're like, this is the machine that controls the Borg. And it's like clearly like I'm talking about the original series, not the Borg weren't there. Mm-hmm. This is like the Klingon Confederation, and it's just like an inkjet printer like plugged in the wall.
All hail.
Yeah. And they're like, this is Tom.
Well, in the beginning of the movie, don't they show it like print something off,
Yes.
right? And he reads some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're like, yeah, this machine prints out the future
stuff.
And it printed out, it emailed a bunch of people the day they're going to die. But then it also emailed you every woman you're ever going to sleep with.
Oops.
And they're like, yeah, don't tell anyone and don't look at that list. You should probably destroy it, but might ruin your life. Also, there's this woman going around named Death Nell who we're trying to find. She's a serial killer.
Yeah.
For some reason, they
tease her on the news.
They do tease her on the news.
Because we do get a scene with her, I think, at the very beginning. Basically, it's Winona Ryder, and her whole shtick is that she seduces and sleeps with men who are misogynist.
Does she sleep with them?
Pretty sure she sleeps with them.
I don't know if she gets all the way.
I just remember the first time you see her, she's got all the syringes. Claws.
Yeah.
She looks like the Scarecrow.
And I was like,
the Arkham game.
I remember seeing that. I'm like, did you put those on before or after?
Yeah,
because
like,
I want to know.
Was that did he think that was a kink thing and just went with it?
Ooh, good green vial syringes, my favorite.
This is the good shit. But yeah, and she just murders men,
Bad men.
bad men. You know,
Not Batman.
doing the Lord's
Bad
work.
men.
Yeah.
Amen.
Amen, brother.
So yeah, she gets teased and is serial killer hunting after sexist men.
Yeah, for some reason, these angels are also in trying to find her. Or the agency. They're like, yeah, we're hunting her down.
If they got involved with any person who murdered over like 10 people, they'd have quite a substantial operation on their hands.
Well, don't they keep saying that or whatever? They're like, oh, she killed her 10%. We should be getting a call anytime
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, this machine, it'll take it a few weeks, but it will print out where she's going to be.
What?
The machine of the future. Hang on.
What?
Processing.
You have to wait for the future for it to predict it.
Can you imagine you're waiting 3 weeks for this thing and it prints out a date and it's like, yeah, you're dead tomorrow, bro. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you.
Yeah, sorry.
This is like that machine in God, what's the fucking thing called? The comedy sci-fi book. Zaphod Beeplebrox is the character's name. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This is like the machine in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where it's like it's been computing for millions of years and it's going to give you the answer to the universe, and it's like 42 is the answer.
Yeah. Here's a philosophical question. Would you guys rather know the exact date and time of your death or the exact way you're going to die?
Neither.
You have to pick one.
You have to pick one.
Gun to your head.
I feel like
Probably the way, I guess. That would be better.
The method.
I feel like date and time.
Because like Jeff, if you got told, okay, we don't know when you're going to
get
die.
hit by a bus.
You're going to get hit by a bus.
You're like, fuck yeah.
Is that going to make you like... You don't think that'll make you afraid of buses forever?
Well, it's going to make me afraid of buses, clearly.
I feel like if you know how, every time you see a bus, you're like, this is it, isn't it?
Right.
I knew I should have
Or it's just like a car accident. You could just be like a car accident. Like, are you ever going to drive in your life ever again?
It's the high risk, high reward scenario, because if they're like, yeah, heart attack, then I'm like, all right, well.
Yeah, heart
That's
attack,
fair.
it's like, well, then that could be tomorrow or 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, and I'll never really know.
Yeah. It's the same as the current situation.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway, so he's like, oh yeah, this thing's true. I'm going to fuck all these women.
Yeah, he comes to that conclusion pretty quickly.
I do love that, like, Fred is like, no one's going to be able to say no to the list.
Yeah, you do kind of like tease it to him. Like, don't read it. It's going to mess up your life. They give him that look.
Well, because you got the other, like, alpha, what is it, alpha and beta or whatever. They're
Alpha,
like,
beta, and fresh.
You should probably
They hit him with a...
Yeah, they pulled the glasses down. They were like, you would have put that away. And then Fred's in the background like, no one's going to be able to deny the sex list.
None shall pass.
My precious list. I'm going Lord Megatron.
Oh, my God.
Can you imagine getting that list? And it's like, for like Patty Oswalt scenario,
Feel
it's the
like such a
3
good
women
date.
he's already had sex with.
Yeah, right. And you're just on like the last person already.
Yeah.
But hey, you know
So he
what?
goes to him
He
and
might
he-
be happy with that.
And he's like, so I didn't break up with my fiance, but I did say that the wedding's canceled.
Yeah.
She's like, you got cold feet, huh?
Yeah.
No, honey, it's not. It's
not you, it's me.
You got cold feet, huh?
So he calls off the wedding and he just starts sequentially sleeping with all the women on the list. And it's like basically montage style.
Yeah, because he meets these women in a variety of different places. One of them, we never mentioned, he is a manager of a fast food chain called Swallows.
Yes.
Call-
The
and-
less said, the better. Seemingly, they just put hamburgers in big plastic containers.
Which is like the worst
Possible storage.
storage, worst fast food option. Because you know how loud those things are.
Yeah, right? And it's like the whole thing, it's like, where do you guys want to go to get some burgers? What about Swallows?
You know what the best fast food like delivery system is? It's the hamburgers in like the little sleeve.
Oh, like
Small Cheval.
Small Cheval. I think Culver's does that.
Yeah, like Culver's, where it has like the little sleeve so you can hold it without anything like dripping on your hand.
Yeah.
But it still like provides a good, bite.
Yeah.
Whereas like McDonald's, where it has like the little
The cardboard box.
The cardboard box you have to open, then pull it out.
Right.
And now you got the burger and like the ketchup starts leaking onto your
I
hand.
like the leak.
You like the leak? You like having your hands covered
If
in the
I'm,
grease.
if I'm at home,
It's a reminder.
if I'm at home, then yeah, the box is perfect because it like keeps it warm until I get home. Mm-hmm.
When you're out, though,
But if I'm out and about, you want something that you have an easy clasp on.
That's why I like Culver's. They do both for to-go orders. They put it in a sleeve, and the sleeve goes in a nice little box.
Yeah, it's perfect, right?
Perfect. Yeah.
Culver's, we love you, sponsor.
This episode brought to you by Culver's.
Yeah.
The cheese curds, especially.
The cheese curds, they did change the recipe in 2013, and we've never had as good as cheese curds ever since. Culver's, change your recipe back.
I've only had one cheeseburger since September of last year.
Wow.
I'm falling apart at the seams.
Where was the last cheeseburger?
I was in Sweden, and I thought I was ordering a burger with no patty in it. With like they have like cheese patties there. It's a thing they do called a halloumi burger.
Is it just bun, cheese?
Yeah, it's like a patty of cheese.
So it's just a full
It's like it's
thing
like a
of cheese.
fried patty of a specific type of cheese that's like very hard. Mm-hmm. And I ordered that, and then it came with 2 meat patties and the halloumi patty. And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna eat this.
Mm-hmm.
So
That was your last burger?
that was the only burger I've had.
That was last September you went there?
No, that was like 2 months ago.
Oh.
So that's the only
that
one
was
I've had
a
since.
lie that Jeff said.
I said that was I've only had one burger
since
since
September.
September.
Sorry,
Yes.
I thought you meant in September was the last time I had a burger.
You had a burger.
Anyway, he refers to this list as an embarrassment of bitches.
That was one of my quotes. Was the embarrassment of bitches.
Oh my God.
The one-liners in this, man.
It's a little rough. So
I don't remember, like, I think it's one of the folks on his list is, who is this girl? She's not like a porn star, but is she like, it's the girl that he accidentally sleeps with her grandmother.
The model or
The
whatever.
model.
Is it Cynthia
or-
Rose?
Cynthia Rose. What
Right.
is she? Is she like a porn star or like just a celebrity? Like,
I think she's a prostitute of some sort, right?
I don't think she is. She's like a magazine swimsuit model. of
Okay,
some
yeah,
kind.
you're right. That's it.
You're
She's
talking in the movie.
I think she's like
okay.
equivalent.
She's like
to
a Playboy model.
bunny,
Yeah.
basically, is what she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the newsstand guy's reading like the stuff. Oh, what's she into? Hockey, blah, 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 blah.
So there's like a meet and greet happening with her, and she's like one of the women on his list. And so he's planning on going there, and then they end up together. They go back to her place, and things are going well. Like, he's wooing her very well, and things are going really good. Then it's like she tells him like, "Hey, tonight," because her dad's in the house. It's like, I'm 2 doors to the left.
Yeah.
And so then it's at night, and then it cuts to
He's creepy.
he's creeping.
Creepy crawly through the house.
For a rated R movie, there like every sex scene has underwear in it, by the way. Like, you guys pick up on that? There is no sex scene where it's like full nudity.
I wasn't really paying attention to that, but we'll mark it down for a complaint. Don't worry
Mark
about
it down. So, yeah, he creeps into this bedroom. We don't see who's in the bed. And then we just see him like start going to town. And then there's a knock on the door, and it's the dad. And he quickly like sneaks away.
Yeah, he
creepily.
somehow runs to like the right. The dad walks in
Yeah.
and he runs out behind him.
Yeah.
Wakes up the next morning, and like he goes downstairs.
And they're looking very sad. He's like, "Who died?" As you would and they're like, "Mother in the night. She prayed for this day."
She had such a happy look on her face.
And then Cynthia Rose comes up to him, and she's like, "Hey, what happened to you last night?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, sorry about that. Just got interrupted." It's like, well, I just would have thought you would have like came. And it's like, well, it would have been hard to with your dad knocking on the door. and she's like, "What are you talking about? You never came to my room last night." And he's like, "Wait a minute. what's your grandmother's name?
I'm named after her.
It's like, I'm named after her.
Well,
She's
didn't he
also-
like look up at like the family board?
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
like
they have
some-
a Harry
they have, like-
Potter Sirius Black family tree board on the wall. And you see like the grandmother's name is Cynthia Rose too. And she looks at Simon, which is like at the camera, almost like breaking the fourth wall. She's like, yeah, my grandmother's also named Cynthia Rose. You slept with my grandmother.
And you hear, and he runs out the door.
And he's just like, no. Yeah, so he killed her grandmother with his dick.
Can you pause it for a second?
Yeah.
He runs out of the house. And then he goes right back. He's like traumatized, and his secretary's like, "You good?" And he's like,
I think we got to bury this list.
"Not yet," because
Not
he
yet.
falls in love with Miranda first.
Oh,
right?
right.
Oh, wait, no, he does
buries
bury the list.
and then he meets Miranda.
Yeah, no. So he buries it, and he's trying to get the last name or the next name. And
It's Miranda.
the secretary only shows him like 3 letters of the name, right?
MIR.
And then that's where he meets the veterinarian.
Yes.
It says Dr. Murr.
That's all he's got.
So he knows it's a doctor and that her name starts with Murr.
And they're watching the sports game, and his two bros are like, "Man, that veterinarian," because he's the one guy. Lester's trying to get his turtle sick so he can go see the veterinarian.
He's like poisoning the
He's
turtle.
literally trying to poison this turtle, and they sit here and talk about this vet. They're just like, "Man, she's so fucking hot. I keep trying." My wife said she put my dog down if I took her to the vet. And then, like, I forgot what happens. They fall over, and the turtle shits on him, and he's like, "Yes!"
Man. Yeah.
So he goes to, how does he goes to the vet?
No, he goes to like because some guy stalked her and had like
Okay.
her whole schedule posted online. I don't know why I remember this. Posted it online. He goes to like some other place to eat, and she's there also.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like some weird. I don't know if it's like one of the restaurants on the list, or he's like, I knew you probably wouldn't go to the one on the list, so I went here instead, or some shit like that. It was something like that.
Okay. I don't really remember this part.
That's fair.
Okay. So here's the thing is like he falls in love with her.
Yeah. Seemingly.
And she eventually reciprocates the friendship. And he keeps trying to have sex with her. And she keeps expressing, I'm weird with sex.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to town with you.
But then he slowly puts 2 and 2 together that like she's sleeping with other people.
Yes. And he gets her book published about like dogs or something.
Yeah.
And is like, I got your book published. Why won't you sleep with me?
Code red.
I'm going to make the point that I think this movie is much more interesting if Death Nell is the main character.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Yeah.
I feel like
And this is the moment where I'm like, I'm fucking sick of this guy. Like, enough of this.
Yeah.
Because he's like, why won't you sleep? And she's like, I'm just weird with sex. I don't want to sleep with you. Sorry.
I want a friend. I don't want you. You know.
And he's like, he like drops a champagne flute and it like shatters on the floor.
She
does.
Did she drop it? I thought
I think she drops
somebody
it because he
drops
shocks
it.
her.
Yeah.
With like, let's have sex.
Yeah.
And then she turns around to leave and slips on the champagne flute, trips, falls, snaps her neck, and immediately dies.
Dead. And then we cut to the morgue.
Yes.
My God, don't remind me of that. At that point, the grandmother was a line.
I had my finger over the power button of the TV.
Yeah,
At that point,
you're right.
I was like, what is going to happen?
When
here?
he walks into the morgue and starts talking to her, and he's like, well, we're going to prove him wrong. We're going to prove that this list. I'm like, dude, if you do this, I ain't watching the rest of this.
I'm not watching the rest of
I
this
bought this movie.
Yeah, we
I
both
know.
bought
I
it.
will own this forever.
The government has info that I own this movie now.
And yeah, so because he's sitting out in the waiting room, and then the morgue doctor comes out, medical examiner is like, hey, if you want to say goodbye to your girlfriend, like now's a good time. She's
not my girl.
She said goodbye to your girlfriend, and for a split second, I'm like, wait a minute, is she still alive but dying? Like, I don't understand. But then it's like, no, she's just on the slab, dead.
Cold.
It's cold, rotting, decaying. Yeah. And so like he unbuckles his pants, and you're just like, no.
I watched this movie in my apartment with the blinds down because I had no idea what was going to happen.
Bag up,
Back it up, Terry.
But then eventually, I think he like stops himself.
Yeah.
Thank God. And then he walks out of the room and he immediately hugs and cries the doctor. And he sees her name tag. And it's Dr. Miranda.
Dr. Mirabelle.
Or
Mirabelle.
Mirabelle. And he's like, and he cries again. He's like, no.
Dr. Mirabella Stone. I don't know why I remember that name.
Right. Doesn't he eventually, before this whole thing with that doctor, he digs up the list again to see what the name is, doesn't
Yes.
see that it's the first woman he's with, and he's like, no.
Yeah, it's not Miranda.
Yeah.
It's Mirabella Stone.
Right. And so, yeah, he sees
He sleeps with the doctor.
Sleeps with the doctor. And then he continues on to his conquest.
Yes, this continues his mission.
Yeah.
We get another Death Nell scene.
Yes.
Because he's at like some party and there's a guy who's like, yeah, I got an email with a date on it, and I think it's when I'm gonna meet my soulmate. And Rob is like, let me buy your next drink.
Thanks, man.
But the guy, he meets his soulmate. It's Death Nell. He goes to the room with
Winona
her.
Ryder.
Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
She fucking murders his ass.
Well,
And
he
She
falls.
spray paints something on the wall, and I don't really know what.
Some poetry.
Some poetry of some kind.
it's like feminist poetry.
But this is the part that I really like about like her role and her character. Because you're right, Jeff. Like, if you just judge it based on those like earlier bits, it's like, is she like not that good? And then it recontextualizes like, oh no, she's just really bad at being a serial killer.
A serial killer.
Yeah.
Which is funny.
It's very funny. And then you look back on it and like she's good in those scenes, knowing that.
Did you guys see the movie Promising Young Woman? No. 2 years ago. It's overall, I'd say a good movie. There are like a lot of issues with it. But it's basically like what you want this movie to be, which is like you're following Death Nell trying to like kill all these misogynists.
Yeah.
And that feels much more interesting and more Daniel Waters like.
Yeah.
Like it almost feels like picking up with Veronica from Heathers 20 years later.
Yeah.
And that's what she's doing.
Yeah.
Instead, like we're just following this like this dude,
This doofus.
like just having sex with all these women, not learning anything until the very end of the movie when he encounters her.
Yeah.
Like, is it not a more interesting plot if we're following Winona Ryder seducing and murdering a bunch of misogynists, and eventually she has to learn, like, you know, to not kill people? Like,
I guess like that's the only problem that I might have with that is like
it's still
sad,
like
it's sad to say, but it's like the lesson she would need to learn in that version of the movie is you can't murder misogynists. And it's like
the lesson she learns in this version of the movie is kind of just like she finds her soulmate, and it's someone as like messed up as her.
it is also
I think that if you come at it from
Yeah.
her perspective and that's like the solution she finds, that's like there's something there.
there's maybe you guys might probably disagree with this, but there's a small part of me that like the lesson of that Winona learns in this movie that I was like, it was very much like a not all men kind of a lesson. Very much like a
Not all guys are
not
bad.
all guys are worth murdering.
Because the lesson that our guy Rod learned at the end of this is, yeah, you can sleep around for a while, but eventually you got to settle down.
Cool.
Great.
Yeah.
What is that it? That's all you got?
You do it 75 times.
I watched this 117-minute movie for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you walked away a better person?
No, I feel like I walked away brain dead. So I went right into watching our next movie.
Yeah. Which we won't talk about yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's at this party where he meets these two. They are like this famous lesbian couple,
Like reality stars, right?
something like that.
But
They're
one's
wearing-
like an astronaut, like a British astronaut, they said.
oh, I didn't know about that.
Oh, they said it was like just this quick,
believe
they're
it.
this and this, but they're like the reality stars, yada, yada, yada.
And so
He sleeps with the lesbian power couple,
yeah, and so they
who his
they-
secretary is a big fan of.
They have a threesome, and meanwhile, next door, Winona is murdering this other guy.
Yes.
Yeah. That's that scene.
It's basically that.
Basically.
His secretary and him have a fight because she was a big fan of the lesbian power couple, which is specifically how this movie frames them. Is it lists them as the biggest hot lesbian power couple in the world?
Because they made him sign like an NDA that essentially he can't say that he had sex with them.
But they can post a video. Of them online.
On their reality show.
Yes,
because it's also hinted that the secretary is lesbian herself.
Yeah.
And that she wanted to try to like shoot her shot with this couple. Hence why like he wanted to keep it under wraps that he was sleeping with them.
and so but Winona makes a fatal mistake. Death Nell leaves her driver's license behind at the scene of the crime.
Yeah.
Normal thing to do.
Normal thing to do. Which again like leads to her being like, not good.
And her name is Gillian DeRay.
Spelled with an X.
I'm very curious how at some point does the driver's license get left there? Does she pull out her wallet, put it down on the nightstand, and leave it?
Like intentionally?
Or did you just leave the whole like purse? Or was it just the driver's license?
It can't be the purse because when they announced that they found the driver's license, she's like currently looking for it in her purse.
So like, how did it come out of her purse? Is my question.
Maybe she like
was at a bar.
Because she met him at this party, right? Maybe it was that she took it out to show like the bouncer to get in, and she just never put it back inside of the wallet.
She left her tab open, and this is one of those bars that keeps your
ID as collateral. Yeah.
And they're like, that looks like a serial killer. Let's turn this in.
Right? So, it's all out in the public now who this woman is. And it's on the news, and Simon Baker, Richard Blank, is like, wait a minute. I feel like I know that name from somewhere. He looks at his list, and sure enough, she's like the last name on his list.
He's like, oh my God, I'm going to get serial killed.
Yeah.
Serial killed. No.
And they're all of his buddies that he's talking to about this, that know about this magical list, is like, well, just like, don't sleep with all the women. Like, find one on the list and like settle down, and like, that's fine. And then we get. So
he decides to become a wholesome person. He gets into. Oh, I really quickly want to shout out right before this. There's like he has a line where he's like, This conquest was like a montage used. Like it was like, I can't believe they afforded this song montage level.
Oh, Fred.
Fred says this about what's about our guy Rod. And then they played this song for the montage by a band called Balmer that's non-existent and probably pretty cheap.
Yeah.
So I like they called their shot like, how could they afford this song, and then got a fucking like cheap ass song.
You said earlier, Jeff, that he became a wholesome man. Which he does. He becomes a wholesome man.
He builds like Legos and shit.
And he gets into some religion.
He gets some
and he like starts riding his bike around. He gets into making teas.
He gets hobbies.
Stops drinking Red Bull.
Oh my God, Jeff, shut the fuck up.
Starts hosting podcasts.
Yeah.
Starts a podcast about the time he had a list of women he had sex with.
He reads Kurt Vonnegut.
Man,
and then he's like riding a bike around, and then he gets hit by a fucking school bus.
Don't talk about this fucking school bus, dude. There was like how many names before? Like 7 extra.
He was on like number 67 or some shit like that.
Well, no, he was on number 80. Number 80.
They say it's like 20 women.
Yeah, he sleeps with 20 women.
Okay, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
They hit him with a bus, and then the narrators or some shit's like, well, you see what happens is these were all young women that were all virgins going to Christian.
It's specific. They're all 18 to 19 year old.
18 to 19.
The narrator sweating. Like, they are all 18 to 19.
Because at first he's like, these young teenage girls are going to this camp. 18 to 19-year-olds.
Like ADR
and Stuart. And then according to this, Stuart. And then they literally all just have sex with him while he's knocked out.
Yeah,
but hard.
But hard.
And there's like this shot essentially of this line of girls,
young Catholic schoolgirls,
18 to 19-year-old,
walking into a bus. And then the camera goes past the bus and comes at the back where they're all sequentially stepping out and being given a lit cigarette, and then walking into a group where they're all having post-coital cigarettes.
Postcoital
I thought that was the weirdest way to say that.
And so and literally he's thinking back, like, so he's evidently knocked out.
Yes.
Right. That's what the movie's trying to say.
He's very loopy.
But he remembers seeing all I'm going to throw up in my mouth when I say this, but the school ID name tags.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
18 to 19-year-old schoolgirl.
Yeah.
That's probably why they had to preface it, because they had the school tag and they're like 18 to
19-year-old
legal age.
and like, but he's remembering all the name tags that he saw.
And he's like,
fuck, I'm at 99. He's like, okay, but I have one more name before I get to, what's Death Nell's real name?
Gilead.
It's like, I have one more name before I get to Gilead. It's Ethel Yates. What do I know that name? Ethel Yates. And then it cuts back to the bus.
No, because one of Neil Flynn's like, what happened to the bus driver? Where was he during all this?
Yeah. Womp, womp, womp.
And then he has another vision of the bus driver, Ethel Yates, played by Retta, coming up to him.
Well, I'm gonna
from
get
Parks and
me
Recreation.
some.
I'm gonna get me some. Takes her pants off. He's like, no. This is funnier to talk about than it is to watch.
Yes.
Oh, it's horrifying to watch.
Yeah. So he's on to number 100, Gillian.
Well, he's on 99. He hasn't had sex with 100 yet.
So he,
well, like I'd say, like he's all the
he's
way
on.
up to
Yeah,
Gillian
yeah.
right now.
yeah, he's at 100 because she's 101.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because it's Sex and Death 101.
That's right.
Duh.
Fucking hell.
I didn't read the book. That's
So he
why.
knows that Death Nell is the last name on his list and that he's not going to survive. First, he becomes a shut-in to try and avoid this.
Yeah.
And then his secretary comes and busts down the door and is like, I found another Gillian DeRay with the same spelling. Lives in Sydney.
Oh my God.
biologist.
And she's like,
This is
she's
brutal.
She's an overweight marine biologist. And he's like, maybe I'll just die.
Yeah. She's like, you literally won't sleep with this woman to save your life because she's overweight. Whoa. Oh.
What's she do?
That cat did not. It jumped and then
It
almost
didn't
fell.
land it.
It didn't land the jump.
It's like which one's the walrus? She's
Yeah.
next to a walrus.
First words out of his mouth.
This guy's not an interesting protagonist.
No, he's not. And he's like,
You know, the satire is hard, and this is not successful at it.
yeah.
I would much rather even have like a split focus between him and Winona.
Yeah.
Like this shitty guy and the serial killer.
Yeah.
That's more interesting. Because when we're just with him and he's just being sexist inherently, you're like, clearly he learns a lesson at the end of this. But like, oh my God, I'm just sick of spending time with this guy.
Because you're right, Jeff. If it is like more split focus between the two of them, it at least builds up this whole thing. It's like, okay, eventually
gonna meet,
They're
yeah.
gonna meet, and she's gonna kill him because he's been a misogynist this whole movie.
You know what's good about Heathers? Is that Veronica is not like the problem character in that movie.
Right.
She's getting seduced by the problem character, JD.
Right.
Or the Heathers.
Yeah.
She's like split in the two ways between the two bad pile-ups. But then at the end, she like learns the lesson of both of them and becomes a better person.
Yeah.
It's like the joy of the end of Heathers.
Yeah.
This like kind of tries to do that at the end because he decides not to go to Sydney because he doesn't want to sleep with the overweight woman.
Yep.
Notoriously cool.
His words.
So he gets a call from Patton Oswalt. Like, we found her. We're gonna kill her tonight.
Don't come to this address.
Yeah, don't come to this address. And so he goes to the address.
Yeah.
He's like, I must embrace my destiny.
Yeah.
But Patton Oswalt's like, we haven't found her yet. And so he just goes and sits down in a diner. And then he looks, and Winona Ryder is also at the diner. Gasp.
Oh shit.
Destiny waits for no man.
Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit.
And they share a meal, and he's just like, I know you're Death Nell. I know you're going to kill me. I'm here for it. And she's like, it's very rare. This is the first time I've ever had a volunteer for this.
Yeah.
But he's like, can we just talk before you do it? And so they have a conversation. She's like, yeah, I was a poetry chemistry student. I was swept away by this guy when I was very young. He made me perform sexually degrading favors to him. Turn this music off. We're talking about this woman who's physically abused.
You walked into that one.
And she's like, yep, he would put me in various costumes and make me do role plays. My favorite one of the role plays that she talked about is The Sound of Music, as if the Nazis won.
Yeah.
My God.
They were really weird.
Yeah, they were
like,
very
kinks.
bizarre. She's like, yeah, he'd make me dress up as all these princesses, and then he would be like ogres and executioners and
Vikings and
Vikings atop me. And then The Sound of Music, as if the Nazis won. He says around this time, this quote that we do have to talk about, where he says, "The end is coming, and coming is the end," which made me want to shoot myself. But she eventually kills her abuser and feels empowered by it, and decided to go out on this quest to kill men who treat women poorly.
I will say one thing she did say when she was doing all that, when he's like, well, you don't have to talk about it. One of the quotes I did like from that movie is when she's like, it does feel good to say the bad out loud, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Winona's really good in this scene, I thought.
She is. I actually really like
Like when she opens up to herself, and I'm like, this could have been the whole movie. Mm-hmm.
Right?
This is a character I'm interested in following.
Yeah.
Instead, we had to follow the world's shittiest guy to get to the end where the woman's finally like, yeah, I have a personality, believe it or not.
And he's like, wow.
And he has to, and like his
Never
lesson is,
before would
he's
I
like,
guess.
wow, women have personalities? I didn't know that.
I didn't know.
Crazy.
Whittle we.
Which is like going back to, if this is made in the 80s, the concept of like a movie following a male protagonist to us to learn that women have agency, maybe like it fits with the time a little better. I'm not saying it's good.
Yeah.
That is the weird thing about the first Ghostbusters movie.
Yeah.
If you watch the first Bill Murray's arc in that movie is learning to trust women. His arc in that movie is, at the beginning, all he wants to do is sleep with his students. And then at the end, he has to go up to Sigourney Weaver's character and just be like, I'm not going to rape you while you're possessed by the ghost. I have too much respect for you now. That's his arc in that movie. What? Next time you watch Ghostbusters, think about it. That is Bill Murray's arc in that movie.
I haven't seen Ghostbusters since I was a kid, so now
And
I gotta go back.
I'm
and
not
watch
saying
it.
that that's good or acceptable, but like it being in the 80s makes more sense.
Yeah.
It like contextualizes it.
Yeah.
This being set in 2007, you're just like, come on.
Come on.
What are we doing here?
Yeah.
We're beating off a dead horse, you know?
Quite literally.
That was good. That was good.
But she's like,
Thank you.
Sorry.
she pulls out 2 of the pills that she's been drugging guys with, and is like, what if we took them together? And so they take the pills, and they go home.
That's the way you said.
What if we took them together?
And they go under the covers together. And like it looks like a burial shroud, and you're like, they die together. That's the ending. And then a kid jumps on the bed. And it's like, Mommy, Daddy. We cut to several years later.
And you're like, there's no fucking way they had kids.
And it turns out Gillian DeRay was not on the list because she killed him, but because he became monogamous after that. He learned to respect women.
It only took 101 women, but he learned how to respect them.
Yeah.
It's like when Davy Jones says 100 souls.
3 days.
3 days. Oh my God.
Yeah, they're happily married. They have a son. And then all of Death Nell's like victims are resurrected at the agency.
Oh yeah, I was wondering what that was about.
That
Like,
was
this
weird.
They're all like
community.
they were just comatose. She didn't kill them.
Whoa.
It's
Really?
like the thing that's revealed.
What? I did not get that. Did you get that?
They all wake up in a hospital.
I remember seeing them all wake up because I even wrote in my phone. They came back to life? Question mark.
I just thought they were waking up in like heaven and shit, which would be weird.
let them have
be.
some gumption of actually having died. Come on.
Yeah.
I know we don't like, to support like villainous characters. I know everyone got mad when Jason Statham joined the family in Fast and Furious because they're like, he killed Han. They had to bring Han back to life so that people were okay with Jason Statham being in the movie. But come on. Just
Keep
let
him
him be
dead.
dead.
Yeah.
We can accept complicated characters.
Exactly.
She's a murderer.
Yeah.
But she apologized. So we're okay. I do love though that there was like this giant manhunt for her. She gets married.
Just
Stop
goes
looking
away.
for her.
They're
They
like
stop looking for her.
they're like Jillian who? You know, like
That was an old case. We don't care anymore.
We can't
that was
put
like
that.
3 months ago. Don't
It's like, what are we even doing here, guys?
I don't know. This movie was so
This
weird.
movie's terrible. It's a disaster.
Thank you for coming on, Justin.
Thanks for hey man.
Justin. Thank you for being here.
I love watching bad movies. This is one of those where it's so bad you can't really enjoy it, but it has some moments. You know?
It does have some ridiculous lines in it that you can at least laugh at. I do want to say that the New York Times critic, Manhola Dargis, dismissed this movie as an unfortunate comedy. Which is like the coolest fucking pan I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Unfortunate comedy.
Unfortunate.
One of my favorite quotes is when Death Nell is talking to the newspaper stand guy that showed our main guy the Playboy bunny or whatever. And she looks at him and she's like, do you want to come back with me? He's like, this isn't real, right? And she's like, 10 seconds on the clock, Kobe.
So I don't know how much this movie cost.
Too much.
Would anyone like to guess how much this movie made in the U.S.?
$35.
I'm going to guess, I think
Specifically in the U.S.
$800K.
Too high.
I'm going to say
400?
Too high.
$5,000.
100.
Too high. Too low.
$5,000 too low. 10 grand.
Well, then it had a limited
higher.
It had a limited release.
15 grand.
A little higher.
20 grand.
A little higher.
35 grand.
Too high.
30
30.
grand.
Too high.
28,
Too high.
69 grand.
27,
Too high.
6,
26
Too
grand.
high.
25 grand.
Too high.
4.
Yes.
Did I not say?
$24,000.
Oh, I did skip 25. Didn't I?
You went from 20 to 30. I was like, all right.
Movie made $24,000
In the U.S.
Wild.
How did it only get like a limited release?
It must have only been a limited release in a few like states.
He showed his friends.
It's probably like New York, LA, Chicago are the only theaters that got it. It did weirdly make $1.2 million around the world. So other countries at least saw it.
Wow.
Weird.
But like, I don't know how much this cost. It looks like very low budget, right? This movie was not shot for a lot of money.
Yeah.
Probably like 1 million, 2 million, maybe.
If that.
Winona and Simon worked for scale on this movie.
Absolutely.
But it makes, no money, gets critically panned, and then Daniel Waters does not direct again. He writes one more movie called The Vampire Academy, which is directed by his brother, Mark Waters, who also directed Mean Girls. And then he hasn't worked in Hollywood since.
Damn.
I feel like if I were him, I'd have to do another movie just to get that off my palate. Like, that can't be the last. I can't go out.
I think he was out of the times. He was, big for his run from 89 to 95.
Then he phased.
And then,
That's so
sometimes an artist just,
Stuck in their
you're
craft
out of
kind
time.
thing.
That's so sad though, because like he made some really good movies, and like it's sad that he wasn't able to like keep up with the times.
It's like I think about Rob Reiner a lot when I'm thinking about this.
Yeah.
Where he had a magical run of 10 years of perfect movies.
Yeah.
He did Spinal Tap, The Sure Thing, Stand By Me, Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, A Few Good Men, The American President.
You're going to be mad I've seen none of those.
That is, Stuart, have you seen several of those?
Not really.
Okay, well, they're all perfect. You've seen The Princess Bride?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen Spinal Tap?
No.
Harry Met Sally?
No.
Misery?
Are these
Few
the
Good Men?
order of
You've
what
at
I
least
should be
heard these.
watching
You've at least heard of
I've
these.
heard of these movies. Yeah.
They're all perfect movies. And then he makes North in 94 and never makes a good movie again.
That's because he's working on South.
And he has directed so many. He has directed North, Ghost of Mississippi, The Story of Us, Alex and Emma, Rumor Has It, The Bucket List, Flipped, The Magic of Belle Island, and So It Goes, Being Charlie, LBJ, Shock and Awe, Albert Brooks, Defending My Life, God and Country, and currently Spinal Tap 2.
I will not hear slander about the bucket list.
Do you know that movie started the terminology of the bucket list? It didn't exist before that movie.
No shit.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
The concept of a bucket list didn't exist until the Jack Nicholson, Morgan Freeman, Rob Reiner comedy, The Bucket List.
According to who?
According
Jack
to
Nicholson.
Like, who's the one saying that trivial fact? Because I don't know if I believe that. I feel like "kick the bucket" was an expression said before the bucket list. Because if they created that, then that's a great fucking turn of phrase right there. Kick the bucket list. Yeah. Good stuff.
Apparently, this says it was coined by the American and British screenwriter Justin Zachman in 1999 when he drew up Justin's list of things to do before I kick the bucket.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe the movie didn't. The movie popularized it.
Yeah. Okay. That I can like stomach.
Well,
I just,
actually, you might be right because this says the first item on his list was to have a screenplay produced by a major Hollywood studio.
And was it the bucket list?
Let's find out
that would have been really funny.
if it was the bucket list.
Any other post texts, Jeff?
Oh, for this fucking movie?
Yeah.
He did write the bucket list.
Okay.
Oh my.
So he wrote the screenplay.
So the screenwriter
Yep.
coined the term. That I'm okay.
So Jeff
It's
is
possible
technically
it
a
had.
little right.
It's possible it had existed prior, but the bucket list movie popularized the term.
I can get behind that. Yeah.
But yeah, Rob Reiner, just like a guy who just had it, made like 10 perfect movies and then lost it and just never got it back.
Like Daniel Waters.
Yeah, Daniel Waters just had it, and then times changed. He got a little older, didn't have it anymore.
And this movie doesn't do anything for any of its cast,
movie's
obviously.
I don't know. I don't think Simon Baker's really done anything since. What's he done? I'm looking
He was
at it.
in The Mentalist.
He's popped up in a bunch of things. That's all I got to say about it. He's
shows
been in
up.
things. We love to be in things, don't we, folks?
We love to be in things.
He did get nominated for a Primetime Emmy Award for The Mentalist, so we have to stand. But yeah, in regards to Winona, like she does it probably as a favor to Waters,
Yeah.
and because she needs work, and she's like, well, he really relaunched my career at one time. Maybe he can do it again. Doesn't really work out. But hey, it's just another movie that's getting her back in people's eyes, even if not that many people's eyes.
And The Mentalist went on for 7 seasons.
It did.
Damn.
Syndication, they're probably making a lot of money on that. Justin, do you have any final thoughts on Sex and Death 101?
It happened.
It did happen. This is true.
Yeah, what was also weird, they did a lot of, I felt like April 2nd jokes, right? Because there was a couple times he's like, is it April Fool's Day? They're like, no, it's 10 past midnight, it's April 2nd. And it's like what? Because I heard it once and I was like, oh, okay, haha. And then I heard it again and I was like,
What is with this April 2nd?
are we doing this? Is it
Yeah.
April 2nd? What year is it?
Imagine the movie release date was April 2nd.
That would make sense. That's why they're like, no, it's April 2nd. I think it had some fun one-liners in it.
Yeah.
One of mine being one of the more risque ones where he's like, no ham radio operating. Mm-hmm. When the guy comes in with the stripper or whatever.
Yeah.
Show Precious some respect when the two guys are talking in the background. That's a pretty funny one too.
Yeah.
We do love that.
This movie does have a few like zingers, as risque as it.
And that's
as they
the
might
most positive I can walk away from it. It's got some one-liners like, okay, haha.
be. Yeah.
Other than that, I'd watch this over The Life of Karma.
No, Secret of Karma is one of the great American films.
Is it American?
And allegedly. Secret of Karma is made by Xenu himself.
Right.
Or whatever. Millen Friedrich, yeah. I still got to buy his book. Remember I messaged him and he never responded.
He never responded.
But yeah, Sex and Death 101. Anything else we want to say? It's a big old fart.
Join us back next season for Sex and Death
102.
102.
I hope they make another one.
What if they made a sequel to
That's what
this?
he's working on.
That's
Since
what
the first
He's
one
been
flopped,
cooking that up.
It's been cooking that up for a while.
and he's gonna double down on the misogyny.
Simon Baker, who I don't know how old he is now, but I imagine he's like getting up there now.
Yeah.
Is like Sex and Death 102, where I sleep
yeah,
with
that's
100
another-
more women.
It's gonna be in the retirement home.
Oh fuck! Oh man, that has a whole new meaning behind it, man. Sex and Death 102 in a retirement home. Oh god.
But yeah, we hope you enjoyed this episode on Sex and Death 101. Make sure to tune in next week for an episode on The Last Word. We will have the last word on that one, I assure you.
Good shit.
But as always, special thanks. Thank you for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to whatever platform you're listening on. We're on a lot of platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Amazon Music. You subscribe to one, why not subscribe to another one? You know, why not? You know,
Do all of them.
hit us up on a few places. We
Good
appreciate
shit.
it.
Yeah.
You can pop into our Reddit, r/Trolting. Find me on Twitter at Jeff W. Sweeney. Find us on Twitter at TroltingPod. TroltingPodcast@gmail.com if you have anything to say to me. Special thanks as always to Rebecca for graphic design and Michael Van Bodegum Smith for the theme music that's taking you out. Have a great week, folks. See you next time for The Last Word.